Hi guys, this is Brandon with Fold Up Games. How the heck are you doing? I'm doing well, thank you for asking. In this exciting episode, we're going to talk about for loops. I know what you're thinking. First of all, what the heck's a for loop? No, you're probably thinking, haven't other people done this before? And I'm like, yeah, they have. But if you're watching my channel, you probably enjoy the way I explain stuff. So if you haven't gotten it before, you've been confused, this is the one that's going to do it. You're going to understand by the time we're done here. Well, let's look at the code. If you're not a coder, there is some code, but we're going to explain it, and it's going to be really easy. We are going to do that. Before we jump into that, we want to look at why in the world you would use them in the first place. There's a lot of great reasons, and you can read them on screen. But one of my favorite ones is that you can fill out a whole lot of stuff really quickly. In one game that I was working on Shieldworthy, you've probably seen that on our website, I fill the entire world with little bits of cloud. And I do that with a for loop. It just repeats until it fills the entire screen up. And that's how I gave it that data. I told it part of the data is how wide the screen is. So let's run through the code right now, and don't freak. Here it is. This is not complicated. How it's written is usually like this. Var I for I equals 0, I is less than 8, I plus than 1. I is less than 8. And then the code is whatever the heck you tell it to do, doing stuff. Let's break this down and explain what that says. What it's really saying is starting off from whatever you tell it, 0, so long as we are less than or more than, doesn't have to be less than, say 8, go ahead and count up or count down or divide or whatever by whatever you tell it, 1. This is very typical to write it this way. Start off with 0. As long as we're less than 8, count up by 1. And that's what this loop says right there. It says variable I, because we have to declare our variable in the first place. You can't just start off with nothing. You have to declare that variable, and you write it that way. Var I, and I just means integer. Integer. It could mean anything. It could be n for number. People usually use I. For, and here's where we start the loop. For I equals 0, that's the starting place. Right there, semicolon. Semicolon. As long as I is less than 8, I plus equals 1. I increase by 1. That's the increase by 1, okay? That could have been minus equals 1, and you could flip this around to be, as long as it's greater than or less than, it doesn't matter, right? And the rest of it is the stuff you're going to do stuff. That's the for loop, okay? Not that hard. Let's jump over into GameMaker, and we're going to take a look at this in action. All right. I've already got some code, and we'll rewrite the code as a group, and as a team, we'll rewrite the code. It's so exciting. I have that block spawning balloons. It was like a party, wasn't it? Oh my gosh, I feel so celebratory. Let's take a look at the code, and then we'll write the code again. There's that code that we just looked at over in PowerPoint, and the stuff that I'm having it do is create balloons. So let's write it. We're going to start off in the create event, and in case you don't know, I'm going to go ahead and start from the start. On the create event, add event, create. We're going to go over to the control tab and grab some code, drop it in. We're going to name it with a // Always name your code. We got to declare that variable var I, okay? And then we're going to start the for loop. For parenthesis, for I equals 0 is where we're going to start, semicolon. As long as I is less than, let's go with 4 this time, semicolon, I increase by 1. That's what that really says, okay? For I starting out with 0, as long as I is less than 4, increase by 1. Squiggly bracket open, squiggly bracket closed. Now here's the stuff that it's going to do, and in this case I want to do instance create xy object balloon. Instance create xy object balloon. It's going to create it at its own xy position, and it's going to create, starting at 0, it'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, and it's less than 4, and it'll stop right there. Look at that. So exciting. 4 balloons. It counted 0, 1, 2, 3, and then it was no longer less than 4, right? because it would have counted up to 4. 4 equals 4. So it counted 0, 1, 2, 3. And if it counted any further, it would not have been less than 4. So it stopped. You follow my meaning? We could, of course, increase this. I know you're going to be shocked when you see 6 balloons on screen. Oh my gosh. It's incredible. So incredible. So the next thing that we can do with this is get a little bit more fancy. If that's all you needed to know, somebody to explain what the heck a for loop is, I think you're good to go. But we're going to put it to a little more work and do something else that's a little more clever with it. I have an exit event here, so it's going to exit the other code I wrote. Let me put the balloons behind the exit event, and I'm going to open up this code. Now, what I did here was I started off with another variable called d. d equals 0. Look at the code here. Variable n, I used n instead of I. See, I told you you could use whatever. As long as n equals 0, we're starting off with 0. As long as n is less than 6, n gets increased by 1. Everything in the for loop is going to repeat. So long as that circumstance is still true, as long as n is less than 6, it's going to continue to run by 1. So it's going to run this code 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to run it again and again and again. And what it's going to do in this case is it's going to take the value of d, which I also started out with 0, and increase d by 64. So d will go 0, 64, whatever comes after 64, 128, whatever comes after 128. I can't do math. And then keep on creating stuff at x plus d. If this is a little bit too much code for you, that's cool. It's not important, but just understand that it's going to continue to run this again and again, and it's going to use another variable, d, which keeps on increasing every time, and it's going to put a block at x plus d. Okay, so we're going to take that object and slide it over here, and it's going to create blocks starting out at its x position all the way out to the right. Okay. And since the command object I had it use the same sprite as the block, you should see. Well, there are actually 2 blocks on top of it right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See there? All right, guys. I think you've got it here. I'm going to do this one more time. We're going to make it past 9. D plus equals 64. Look at that. I'm going to change the, so that we can see the other one. We'll change the command block into a balloon sprite, just because it'll be great. There's a balloon, and it increases from that. It increases from its position, plus 64, plus 64, plus 64, all the way out. Now, we could have also said as long as n is less than room width. You see, this is where it gets really fun, and you can fill out the whole thing. I'm going to make that guy invisible. This is where it gets really nuts. Boom. And we just filled out the entire room from there on. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? Now, we could have filled the entire room. We could have also added another variable in there. We could do an X and a Y position for it and move them in other directions again and again. So anyway, that's about it for for loops. I will wrap it up with the for loop on screen for you guys. If you have any question, drop them down below and give the video a like. I don't monetize or anything, but it just makes me feel better. And if you didn't like the video, tell me what I did wrong. I'm sure there's some people who are smarter than me out there. You guys have a good day.